All right. Happy Friday, everybody. How are we doing? Good. All right, show of hands. Who has their parents here this weekend? Yeah, just a few people. All right, well, just a friendly reminder, if you aren't doing anything at 3 o'clock, some of our music industry studies students are doing a concert out in front of the Koger Center. So please come on out and bring your parents and support them, and maybe get a free soft pretzel while you're there. They're handing out snacks. All right, guys, we have a couple of things for you today. So first we're going to welcome Christina and Bradley, and they're going to talk to us about the Gamecock Community Shop, and they're going to tell us a little bit about what that is, and we are going to be doing a food drive starting next week, so they're going to help us kick that off. And then we have one of our own students that's going to share some of her experience that she did on a global service trip this summer. All right, I'm going to hand it over.
Hello, School of Music. How are you guys doing? Good. How many of you guys know about the Gamecock Community Shop? Wow, that's like 3 more than I figured. First of all, let's start some definitions. Food insecurity. It's a lack of reliable access to sufficient quantities of affordable and nutritious food. So basically, you're hungry and you get McDonald's as opposed to, like a salad or like something nutritious for you. And a food desert is areas that lack access to affordable fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low food, and all that stuff. So basically, all the healthy food that you need to survive. Food security affects about 1/3 of college students every year. That is also often connected to other basic needs and insecurities. And this can lead to difficulty in academic performance and student success. College students tend to face food insecurity when there are increases in tuition, unexpected events, and loans that are struggling to get repaid. Our mission for the Gamecock Community Shop is to serve students, faculty, and staff through innovation of basic needs, resources, and community engagement to make an impact at Carolina and beyond. Now, the Unity Shop is a one-stop shop for all your basic needs. Offers include the Gamecock Pantry, Gamecock School Supplies, Carolina Closet, and Self-Expression Closet. So basically, if you need clothes or a quick snack or even like things to make a whole meal, we got you. And the location is the Carolina Coliseum, which, if you don't know, is like across the street, like behind Dollarmore. And then you go straight in, take a right. I promise you, you can't miss it. We have a nifty little sign for you guys. And our typical hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., and on Friday, we just close an hour earlier. So we follow like the regular university calendar, so we're not gonna be open during fall break, Thanksgiving break, winter break, or voting days. So here's a quick review of the point system. How many of you guys have been to Walmart? How many of you guys have been inside a shop? See, now I know y'all lying. So basically, it's kind of like a little mini Walmart, except instead of having to pay real money, you have 40 points that you get. So we have 40 points that reset every single month, and each item inside the Gamecock Community Shop is 1 point. So that includes, let's say for some reason get a donation for a scooter, right? Guess what? You got that scooter for a point. And that's about the same as a can of soup. And you have 25 points per semester for the Carolina Closet. So this entire outfit right here from the Carolina Closet, yeah, you get like as drippy as me. And the Self-Expression Closet is request-based. So this kind of like explains how to sign up for it. Honestly, it's not that hard. You just gotta scan the QR code that we have, and then you're able to sign up and just put in your USC ID, and then just make a password. It's really simple. After that, you don't have to sign it anymore. We do it all for you. So how it'll work when you have a Pantry Soft account and get inside, you arrive at Unity Shop, you'll be greeted by a UniPal, which is one of us, or a volunteer. You hand your Carolina card, and then you just look through and start shopping. We currently have our fall 2024 volunteers. However, we will be open for a spring 2025 application in January of next year's. Volunteers are required to volunteer 1 hour a week at minimum, but can work as many hours as they want. So tasks include checking customers out, helping out with inventory and restocking, and other daily duties. If you want to, it's a very great way to get service hours, especially if you're a fraternity or sorority that requires service hours. And yeah, honestly, it's not too labor intensive, so it's a really easy way to get volunteer hours. So other ways you can help out the Gamecock Community Shop is by doing group volunteering. So if you do have a fraternity, sorority, or any other organization, you can come and help out at the shop with group volunteering, and you can also host donation drives so that we can get more food and more items for our community shop. And then you can also check out our Amazon wish list and donate from there. So this is the School of Music donation drive. That's happening from Monday, September 23rd to Friday, September 27th. And honestly, all you can do is we need these items on here, but you can also donate anything else you might think another college student might find helpful. And then here's a QR code to our Linktree, our volunteer, Amazon wish list, and if you want to get started on that PantrySoft login, you can do that too. And then here's follow our social media. We have like 100 followers. Please, we want to be famous.
Can you go back to the QR code for a second?
Of course I can. Random bystander. Does everyone have the QR code? I'm going to assume your silence means yes. And yeah, make sure you follow us on everything, please. And then, does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Who had a question? All right. You're there.
Where are you guys located?
We're located at the Carolina Coliseum. So you know where they host University 101 classes? So you go through there and then take like an immediate right. We're like the first door on your right. And then usually you'll see like someone sitting in like an office or something. Yeah, that's gonna be us. And then, yeah.
Just think about going to the volleyball place and then just look and it's right there.
Anyone else have any questions? Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you so much. We look forward to collecting different items next week. So if you, are at the store over the weekend, or your parents are at the store and you're willing to pick up a couple of extra things for the drive, that would be wonderful. Please bring in anything, snacks, food items, whatever it might be, so that we can have a successful drive next week. You'll see the bins throughout the building. And we will also have information posted on the TV screens throughout the building as well, reminding you of that food drive. So spread the news, bring in what you can, and please support the community shop by heading down and checking them out. They have a lot of really great things, and we encourage anyone and everyone to check out and utilize that. All right, so we are going to now switch gears. Let's see if that works. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Having a moment here. We are now going to shift gears, and our very own Kate Wages, who's a senior music ed major, she is going to share with us a little about her volunteer experience this summer in Uganda. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her. All right.
Hello, I am Kate Wages. I'm a senior music education major with a psychology minor. none of that really matters. The most important thing is I've been in the same seats you are now, so I'm one of your peers, and I feel like that's a good place to start. So, this summer, I went to Uganda, which was totally out of my comfort zone, and I volunteered with a program to teach music. How it began? Well, it wasn't in the plan, actually. I really struggled my freshman and sophomore year with depression, and when I kind of felt like I was at rock bottom, and I got on the other side of that, I made a bullet list of things I wanted to do with my life. And one of the bullets was go abroad. Did not expect it to go to where it has now. But with that being said, things like this don't always have to begin with a plan or a specific reason why. Sometimes journeys just happen. So I volunteered with Living Music Foundation, which is in Mbarara, Uganda, and this is a program that was founded with the Go Abroad Foundation. When I decided I wanted to go abroad, I looked into a few different things, like maybe traveling abroad with a Maymester program, or finding like some church that's going on a mission trip. But I kind of realized that these aren't things that my passions were in. I wanted to do something that I cared about, and let's be real, traveling is expensive, plane tickets are expensive. If I'm gonna pay to go somewhere, I want it to be something that I care about. So I went online and I typed in music education volunteer programs, and I looked at random tabs, and I pinned 3, and I just happened to apply for this one. And everything just sort of worked out for me. So this specific program provides free lessons in Mbarara and in local villages that do not have equipment or access to resources. They focus on children who are economically or socially challenged and lacking family or community support. The founder, his name is Deeson Kato, and his story alone could fill up an entire presentation, but he was the last surviving member of a family of 5 after the HIV epidemic. He was then taken in by an aunt and uncle and nearly died from malaria when neglected by those foster parents. When a visitor came, on his hands and knees, he crawled into the line of sight from the door. Luckily, he was saved, and as he continued to grow older, he kind of turned to music as what grounded him. He's a piano player and a singer, and now he has a gospel band, and formed this program to sort of give back to the children with a background like his. Of course, I don't have a crazy story like that, but I'm from a Title I school district, and one of the main feeders into that school district is Thornwell, which is a foster home. So some of my best friends and classmates in my K through 12 years had similar backgrounds, and that just sort of drew me in to this program specifically. Their mission is, we believe music lessons provide self-esteem and purpose, spread happiness in the community, and can create economic benefits for the musician. If you're interested, that QR code is a link to their website. I'll give a second for anyone that wants to scan it and scroll through their website as I'm going. Great. Okay, so home for me is South Carolina, specifically a tiny town in the middle of nowhere called Clinton, where the T is silent and the T is sweet, very southern. And my second home now is Mbarara, Uganda, something that I never thought I would say. I hope that you know this, but Africa is not a country. It is a continent, and Uganda is a country within Africa. So you can kind of see where it is and some of the countries that you may recognize that surround it. If you see the little red star, Kampala is the airport that I landed in, and we had a nice 5-hour drive to Mbarara, which is further down on the map. So of course, going anywhere, you'll have some lifestyle changes. For me, some of those were the drinking water. I have the pleasure of drinking the wonderful filtered water in Colombia. We're very lucky to be able to drink right out of the tap, but that's not a luxury everywhere you go. And because I'm not used to drinking water from a river that's collected out in nature, I had to be really careful with what I ingested because my immune system is not as strong. Additionally, malaria is a large issue in Africa and specifically Uganda. So a lot of the homes had screens and were fumigated. Oh, and I don't know if you'll be able to handle this one, but there was no air condition. And you would think that that would be horrible because summers in South Carolina get really hot. But think about it, the coldest it got is around 70 degrees and the hottest it got was 85. And then as far as food, there's fresh food everywhere. There's a lot of markets where you can buy anything from clothing to, you can see a ton of different vegetables and root and fruits. So the food was a little bit different. They think about protein differently, and my staple meal was matake, which is like green banana, kind of similar to plantain. But there's so many more similarities than differences. We're told that when you leave the US, everything's different, but that's simply not true. If you look at the top two pictures, and I told you, those are the beautiful landscapes of the mountains in South Carolina. Would you believe me? Okay, mixed answers, but I think it goes to show how small the world is. Like, a lot of the same green trees and the sky, a lot of things look the same. Even the animals are similar. The main species of animals that I saw that are like farm life are cows, sheep, goats, chickens. We have all of those. Sound familiar, right? And then the food is different, but there were a lot of similarities like Irish potatoes, avocados, rice, beans. It wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. And then, of course, people are people everywhere you go. You can see one of my friends that I made, Audrey, we went swimming together at a pool attached to a hotel. It doesn't really matter where you are. Humans are humans. And knowing that I was surrounded by things that I'm used to was very comforting. The biggest challenge was adapting to new languages. And I say languages because there's Ankole, which is the local language, but then there's also the whole music side of everything. So let me start with Ankole. If you look up, what language do people speak in Uganda? It's going to show up as English. That's not true. English is the second language, and everyone is learning a language in local dialects. So each region has a different language that they know, and then in schools, people are learning English. So where I was, everyone spoke Ankole, and it's not at all like the Latin that most of the languages that we speak in the West are based on, so I was lost. But I learned to adapt. And then the other language is just how people think about music. The language used for music was solfege, and I avoided solfege. That was a choir thing until I got into theory and oral skills my freshman year. But as I sort of figured out how to shape my lessons based on that language, we made so much progress. So, before I even get into what I do, Abraham was my host dad, and this is a quote he said the first day I was there. "Everyone deserves love when you meet them because they have not given you any reason not to." Man, here I am. I know no one. I'm scared. I'm alone. Yet everyone I see is showing me love. I started to think, how can I show this in my journey when I'm teaching? So here are my 4 main projects. I taught piano lessons. I worked with a boarding school called Kashaka, and then I worked with the brass band. And then project 4 is kind of ongoing. It's how I left my mark and how I'm continuing to help the musicians and friends that I've made. So project 1 was teaching piano lessons in Barara, which is kind of a city similar to maybe Columbia. It's one of the larger cities in the area, and lots of people and lots of cars and lots of motorcycles. I even rode on one, and I was horrified, because how do I hold on? And then we also went and taught in a local village called Tudukuru, and this was really cool. So if you look at the poster, one, it was really weird to see my face on a poster, but once I got used to that and talked to the program director, he explained that the importance of me coming as a female musician is that there are little girls that want to play instruments. but have been told their whole lives that if women want to be musicians, they have to sing. So me being there was a chance for them to see someone that is the same gender as them do something that they love. So quickly, breaking the stigma of who can play music became a mission throughout this trip. We focus a lot on reading staff music, which is an uncommon skill in East African music. Like I said, everything is done on solfege. And then we also even improvised on some chords. So here you can see kind of the two sites that I was in. The one towards the left is in the office. We had 3 pianos my first day and like 8 people. So everyone is sharing. And then the second place that I was at, we were outside with extension cords under a tree in the middle of a village surrounded by banana trees. Like, not a place that I would ever expect to be a classroom, but it worked. And I realized that there are so many barriers that we see as teachers or musicians or as people that should stop you from doing something. But they do not have to stop learning. They do not have to stop you from being successful. You can see that my group got pretty big by the last day. And barriers don't prevent learning, like I said. Language, of course, continued to be a barrier. Not only was the musical language totally different, but in this village, some of the students were not going to school regularly and did not know English. So imagine trying to understand someone that speaks another language and then also has a very thick Southern accent. It was a struggle, but I used hand signs and I asked people to translate, and we made it work. I quickly learned that students are capable of so much more than we think. Several music teachers that I met while I was there said the reason that students aren't taught staff notation is because it would be too much for them to understand. This is a little boy, about middle school age, writing the notes on a staff after 2 days of music lessons. Try to listen to the person beside you at the same speed they are, okay? 1, 2, ready, go. That was my aha moment. Ooh. I don't know how that hit play. Pretend that didn't happen. No spoilers. Okay. Hearing that was my aha moment. This little kid in the front, named Jonathan, was playing the piano and singing and had a smile ear to ear. I could not keep time at that age. But here he is making music in an area where making Western music is uncommon. He's reading the staff. People, students, children can do so much. And of course, being an American in Uganda meant that I was sticking out all of the time. So I started every lesson with this. I know I don't look like you, but just like you, I'm here because I love music. And then I would go on to say, if I'm difficult to understand, not if you can't understand me, because it's not that the people I'm teaching don't know English. It's that I speak American English with a Southern accent and I talk really fast. There are things that I can do to adapt to them. So I said, if you ever don't understand me, let me know. I'm not scary, and I promise that I'm just here to help you learn. I wanted to break every barrier, every fear that students could have when they talk to me as soon as I got started, because that's important. That's an important part of teaching. So my next little trip was Kashaka Girls Boarding School, and this was by far my favorite part of the journey. I was teaching American high school age children, so 14 to 20-year-olds. They extend their high school years by 2 years. So the oldest students were about my age. I was 21 at the time of this trip. So I taught all things music there. Staff notation, specifically fluently reading the music, guitar, piano, drum circles with the traditional instruments, which I have one here, and I'll leave it at the front whenever I get done. And then even voice lessons, other than my group piano, or well, that's a whole nother story. Other than my voice class, like my methods class that I took because I'm music ed, I have no vocal training whatsoever. But I can explain things like have good posture, carry through with the melody, use good air support. Basically, if you know literally anything, you can use that information to make an impact on others. The little bit of training that I had was more than these students had, and they wanted to learn, so I told them everything that I could. Of course, there are lots of differences in the music education from our American music education to specifically the European content that they used. There was a lot of focus on perfect pitch ear training, which I am not even close to perfect pitch, but students I would hit a note on the piano and say, what note is this? Because I wanted them to learn the names of the piano keys. They would close their eyes and be like, that's a C. And I was like, how can you do that? Everything's taught in solfege, so the singing was great. And they learn the notes on the staff, but it's like to check a box. So students aren't fluently reading the staff music and then playing something. In the classroom, there were only traditional instruments, and even then, some of these instruments are broken. But this is what drove me crazy. The curriculum doesn't include those instruments at all. I think there's maybe one unit that uses piano, but other than that, a lot of the music that they're learning is without an instrument or singing songs regularly. And then the school fees are high. School isn't free, and school isn't mandated. So not every student was even getting into a classroom. This could, again, be its whole own presentation, but it meant that I had work to do. So here are some of those instruments. This is not even at the school, this is at another site, because so many of those instruments at the school were broken. But you can see just how resourceful everything is. And the drums, like the one I have here, is made from wood and then cow fur, and it's still hairy on top, which made me giggle so much whenever I was first starting to play these drums. But if these are in the classroom, I don't know how to play them right. The students did. How can we use them to make music? We did lots of drum circles. So here are some of the musical moments I had at the Coshocton Girls' School. This is a game we were playing.
I just want you to be inspired by this and be blessed with this song.
They have so much talent, and so much of it was self-taught, which was absolutely incredible to me. I mean, I've been lucky enough to do music since I was in kindergarten, like many of you, in public school systems. But these students are making music and enjoying it, something that I struggled to do in college. Sometimes oboe gets hard, and I do not want to practice. But these kids would do anything to just have an instrument in their hands. So we made it happen. I danced with them. There was a video of them preparing for a dance competition. I danced. It was bad. They laughed at me. We did drum circles every day, and people that weren't in the music classes stared at us like, what are they doing? But then they wanted to join. So to me, that's a massive success. And I just taught as much as I could. Again, I said I taught piano lessons. Students were reading fluently from the book of music, the curriculum book that they have, and playing those choruses on the piano. Have any of you taken group piano yet? Yeah, it is hard. The amount of willingness to learn and to improve is what makes good musicians. And this school was full of so many. The last girl singing said that she wants more than anything to be a singer one day because she feels like music has changed her life. And songs like the one she sang have been such an important part of her and her self-growth. By doing things like this, we're bringing resources to these students and letting them succeed. So I said this was my favorite part of the journey, and I mean it. These students, the oldest group of girls, 19 and 20-year-olds, we became like sisters very quickly. I spent the night very close by at the headmistress's home, so I was on campus like as late as I wanted to be. After their dinner, they would all come into the music room, and we'd talk. We would gossip about random stuff. It was just building a community of women, which is so important because even though I am an American and these young ladies are Ugandan, women share a collective amount of struggles, like creepy male teachers that made them uncomfortable and kind of creeped me out. We were able to talk about that and connect on it, or about someone's little crush. And I hope that she watches this live stream because then she'll know I called her out. But the point is, we were a connection of young women sharing what we feel. And even more importantly, we were sharing what we aspire to do, talking about future plans, goals, places we want to travel, things we want to do with our lives. And to me, that's the most important part of making music. Because I went here to play music, I made 10 friends, and we all cried when I had to leave. That's amazing. Project 3, to completely shift, was the South Ankole Brass Band. So this was in the South Ankole Diocese, which is like a little, think of it as like a church campus. Uganda is majority Anglican, so the Anglican Church is a huge part of a lot of volunteer work and just like good deed stuff. So that's kind of how I got involved. All of their training is done by ear, and I'm going to show you a video, but no one knew how to read staff music, and no one was going to a trumpet teacher and saying, "Explain how to play this to me." They just blew and figured it out. They were aspiring to learn to read the staff, and the goal was to gain staff notation to write down the music that they were already playing, and then also just be able to find new things to play. But this is what blew my mind. When I tried to talk to the trumpets, those that like knew what notes they were playing and weren't just completely doing it by rote, everything that they learned was taught in C, not in B-flat trumpet. So if you've had any experience playing like a wind instrument, they're not all in concert pitch, so you have to do some transposing to get there, and oh my gosh, that blew my mind. But we were able to make so much progress, even though I have never learned anything by root, and that is so difficult for me. We still fixed their sound. We talked about posture and breath support, and I even marched around with them some because they do a parade band, and I taught them some of the marching band stuff that I know, which I totally nerded out on. But we were marching in time with everyone's left foot hitting down on beat one. We just made so much progress, and it's because there are little things that you can share no matter who you go to. But of course, there were so much that they had already learned that I didn't understand. So rather than starting from scratch, which is always what we try to do, like if you don't understand something, you're like, okay, never mind, let me do it my way. That's not how it's going to work if you have 3 days to help a group of young musicians. I did everything I could to understand how they were learning. And when I explained notes, I used solfege, even though it hurt my soul a little bit. I was using what they already knew and adding on it. And now I have to show you, this was the first day that I got there before I worked with them. These students, the youngest being like around 10 years old and the oldest being 25, did this all on their own. So was it the level of USC's?
Coffee every day. Did it work for me?
No free advertising. So no, this isn't the level of USC's wind ensemble, but imagine having a room of random instruments and picking them up one day and saying, I want to start a brass band. Like, they had no foundation, and somehow these students are playing all of these instruments, and you can hear notes, and you can hear lines moving. Like, we've heard 6th grade bands that have so much foundation, and they're young, and it's chaos. But these people did that completely on their own. And then Project 4 is still ongoing, but before I left, I had to leave my mark, and that mark was painting the logo and motto on the office walls. My secret talent is art. Although I would not make any money. I mean, I'm a musician, so lost cause. But anyway, I painted the logo of the foundation and that motto with some of the team. And it was just such a great way to wrap up this journey and know that even though I might not end up back in Uganda, hopefully I will, but at least until I'm like done with my required years of teaching for my scholarships, I left something that has helped people. And continuing to share resources and fostering the relationships that I have built have been so important. I'm still in contact with so many of the people in Uganda, and in fact, some of them are hopefully on the live stream if everything worked. But once you start the relationship, continue to foster it. And then, of course, what I'm doing now is sharing what I learned. It's pointless to go on an adventure like this when you don't share any of the takeaways. So these were my challenges. The first maybe week and a half, I was so homesick. I traveled alone. Most people spoke Ankole around me. And of course it would be selfish to expect everyone to speak their second language just because the random American girl is there. So I got used to not always understanding what was going on, which is hard because I'm so type A. And then I also realized by the end that just like I tell my students, if you don't understand something I say, or if I'm difficult to understand, you can ask me. I asked people. There were a couple times where Deason, the program director, said something in Ankole, and then he kind of looked at me like, are you going to answer? And then I was like, oh, that was a question. Can you repeat it in English? And that felt awkward and selfish to say, but I'm human, and I am able to ask when I don't understand too. Okay, and then of course there was the culture shock. Everyone would look at me everywhere I went because I'm out of place. I am a foreigner. So of course they did. But it wasn't because they were judging or scared of me. It was curiosity. Some of the people there had never seen someone with as fair of skin as I have. So when I was walking down the street, there was a little girl that grabbed my arm, and I was like, oh my gosh, this child is touching me. This was like day 2 of my journey. But by the end of it, I was waving and smiling at everyone that I passed. Because just like Abraham said, I have no reason not to love these people. And all of them showed me so much love. And then the final one, which is probably the most difficult to talk about, is avoiding what's called the white savior complex. And what really helped me through this journey is reading this book called Necessary Risks Challenges Privileged People Need to Take by Terry McDowell. Normally, I'm not a reader, but that was a long plane flight. So her book just really helped put my entire trip into perspective. It was kind of meant to be. The white savior complex is this idea that volunteers go and do whatever is convenient. It's still a good deed, but it's not always with the best intention. And sometimes not intentionally not helpful. But it's so important that volunteers help others in the ways that they need to be helped, but also the ways they want to be helped. And then again, Africa is not a country, right? We know that now. You can't generalize needs. How many people have heard at some point in their life, be honest, that there's starving children in Africa? That is a thing. People say that. There are not as many, or really probably not any, starving children in Uganda because banana trees literally grow in your backyard. They were wild watermelons. That is one of the countries with the most food abundance in the world. So when one project sent canned food items to Uganda, it was pointless. Why would you send canned food items to a country that has the most fresh food readily available? We have to keep in mind, as people that want to do good, that each country and region has its own needs. Each person has their own needs. And as a human, and as a teacher, and as someone that cares about people, if I want to do service that is beneficial, I have to listen to those needs and help others how they want to be helped. And then lastly, money does not create access. There are so many philanthropic projects that collect money, but what do they do with that money? You can't just send the money off and good things happen. It's people and supplies that get things done. In Uganda especially, the whole mission was to make music, right? But if you go into pretty much every store within Barara, the city that I was in, you wouldn't be able to find that musical equipment. So how would that money be helpful? I quickly realized that me being here is so important because it makes a hands-on impact. The young ladies that I was around were seeing someone that's their gender making music when they've been told their whole lives that if they want to be a musician, they can sing in their church choir, but that's about it. That is not true. And me being there showed that example. And then just all of the relationships that I built are so important. People don't care about what you know until they know that you care. I'm definitely stealing that quote from someone, but I can't remember who right now, so don't be angry at me. But that's so true. Being there shows that I care. And then the story that I have for the picture at the bottom left is we were in Katakuru, that local village, teaching piano lessons, and these 3 little kids came up from a house nearby, and we're just kind of like, what are they doing? And I invited them in. They did not understand what I was saying, but someone translated for me, and I let them kind of pluck at the piano, and that made a difference because someone was physically there welcoming them and telling them, you can do this too. Anyone can make music. And then, of course, the most important thing is relationships, relationships, relationships. I put it 3 times so you wouldn't miss it. Everybody that you meet has the potential of making an impact on someone else or on your own life. These are just some of the great people that I met, but I was constantly learning new names and trying to remember all of them and just continuing to talk to people and learn their stories. At the very top left, you can see the band that Deason performs in, and those became some of my rocks throughout this journey. That was right after we painted the motto on the wall, which is why Innocent, the guy in the back, has black paint all over his hand. But those were my people, and I don't know what I would have done without them on that trip. And then you can see the lovely picture in the middle at the top where I'm matching the checkered design. That is the bishop that I stayed with while I was helping the brass band. He was so excited that he had a shirt that matched my dress, and he was like, Kate, we have to take a picture. Those are the things that I'm going to hold on to. I'm not going to remember every word I said in my lessons, but I'm going to remember stories like that. The girl at the bottom with the guitar, her name's Lucky, and she was the first student I met while I was there. And I told her the last day that I saw her that she was my first friend in Uganda, and she looked at me like, what do you mean? This girl's crazy. And I explained to her, like, I'm new and I didn't know many people, but you always were so kind and you gave me a high five every time you saw me. And even things like that go such a long way. At the bottom left, those are my girls at Kashaka, and we still talk. We have email chains, and they tell me updates, and it's just a connection that I'll never forget. And then I can't go without saying something about my host mom, Priscilla. She took me in and she told me that I was her youngest daughter from the day that I met her. This is the same family that said, love everyone that you meet. How lucky am I to be welcomed by someone that doesn't know me into their home and taken care of. It was so difficult to say goodbye to her, but she really showed me how much love that I can have for other people, even though trusting can be difficult sometimes. So this is my takeaway. Take the risk. Do the thing that seems too scary to get done, like randomly going to Uganda alone. You can do that. Nothing separates me from y'all. I've been in your seat. I'm a student just like you. Make connections, because that is what people carry on. And then share music everywhere you go, because deep down in every single person alive, there's this desire to make something and to let noise fill up the room. So get it done. I want to say a special thanks before I wrap up to the USC School of Music, Spark, and then Sigma Alpha Iota for helping fund my trip, because, like I said, traveling is expensive. And if you go on something like this, apply for scholarships, because I was able to go without paying anything, and that is great. So before you all leave, I have 3 minutes if anyone has any questions. And I also have the furry drum. Yeah.
What was one of the biggest shocks about moving from America to Uganda?
My biggest shock was definitely just everyone looking at me. I quickly realized that I can never be a celebrity, because even this, although I've gotten more comfortable now, it's scary. I don't want to be the center of attention. But you have to keep in mind that it's from a source of curiosity, and we all would do the same thing if someone walked in that looked really funky, like they had blue skin or something. Like, you would be like, interesting. But that doesn't mean you're like, ew, get away, you look different. You know? Okay, anyone else? Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. Please keep an eye on Blackboard. I will have information about the events for next week, as you will have 2 different options to choose from. So please look to Blackboard. I'll be posting information about each of those events and instructions on the location and how to do sign in and sign out. Have a wonderful weekend, guys.